Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today representing MRSI as president, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all as we celebrate the International Market Research Day. Uh, in fact, I would also like to thank the Global Association SOMAR for creating this unique platform and enabling us to celebrate this day, which is International Market Research Day, and we proudly call it IMRD. So while the session starts, I want to just brief you about this particular day and why we are what we are planning to do over next 2 days. Uh, as you all know, that MRSI is an autonomous not-for-profit association which was established in 1988. It was committed to drive excellence and professional standards in the market research and insights industry in India. And with the collaboration and association with SOMAR, we have been celebrating this day since 2021 through different initiatives and different formats. And for this year, the theme that we have decided is celebrating research. Uh, when it comes to IMRD, in my view, it's not just a date on a calendar. It's a global recognition of a profession that quietly shapes some of the most important decisions made by businesses, government, and institutions around the world. In fact, behind every successful product that we see, or brand strategy that we build, or public policy, or improved customer experience, there lies a deeper understanding of people, their needs, their motivation, their behavior, and their aspirations. And all of this, comes from what we do, our profession, which is market research, and the insights that we derive. So IMRD is therefore a moment for us to celebrate the impact of our work, reflect on how the profession is evolving, and reaffirm our commitment to understand people better. So that's the narrative for next 2 days. So looking at today, our industry stands at a very exciting crossroad where we see technology, data science, artificial intelligence, or human insights are all converging. As the world is becoming complex, there is always a demand of credible, ethical, and high quality research, which definitely will be growing stronger day by day. And with that in mind, we decided to curate a 2 day program with 4 tracks, reflecting these shifts and emerging conversations that which is happening within our industry. And I'm sure each session ahead will provide very valuable perspectives and stimulating discussions for everyone joining us. So all of this was not possible without a committed team, the secretariat team, which was led by Mitali Chauhan, and my peers here, which is Anila Vinayak and Chandan Mukerji. They are the pillars for this 2026 IMRD program. Anila, as you all know, that she's presently working with Unilever as general manager CMI. With 20 years at Unilever, she has led several brands and categorically and various categories globally, with cross-functional experience in customer developments, marketing, consumer insight, analytics. And she also is part of our elected managing committee. She is secretary in MRSI and also chairs the community program. That's one of our initiative in MRSI, and also the IMRD. And the second pillar that we have is Chandan Mukherjee. We all know him very well. He's a former director and executive vice president at Nestle India. Also, global head and insights head for Nestle South Asia and Switzerland. He's a seasoned business and marketing leader with global perspective, gained through his extensive experience in India and international markets. He also held board member roles in various organizations like ISA, MMA, iMedia, and AdTech, and has received multiple industry awards in recognition of his contribution. So I'd like to thank both Anila and Chandan as well as the secretariat team to spearhead this initiative. And I think let's begin the this year's IMRD 2026. And with that, I would like to invite Chandan Mukherjee to take this forward and introduce today's topic. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Nitin, for this introduction and for the warm welcome, and also giving us a little more context about IMRD, which is indeed about the spirit of going deep and collaborating and celebrating all the people who turn insight into impact shaping better businesses, shaping better institutions, and a more informed society. So welcome everyone to this first session. This session is going to be about the future of insights and market research in an era of rapid transformation. So as Nitin mentioned, we are in times where many things are changing, and things are changing, as they say, as the car is running, the tires are also changing, and things are moving and going forward. And therefore, to have a discussion around this, I have with me four eminent people from the research, insights, and analytics industry. I will go in alphabetical order and introduce them. First, we have Biju Dominic, who's the Chief Evangelist at Fractal Analytics. Biju is deeply passionate about understanding human behavior, especially the unconscious drivers of human behavior. And as a part of Fractal Analytics, he has been exploring the possibilities at the intersection of neuroscience, AI, design, and human understanding. Then we have Nitesh Priyadarshi, is the SVP and Chief Strategic Insights and Analytics Officer at Danone. Nitesh is a passionate person about how data and analytics and insights can be used to enhance the lives of people while also driving growth in organizations. And with a diverse experience across countries, he strives to bring positivity and passion for not just driving insights, but also insights which drive great ideas, actions, and create very tangible business outcomes, while making sure that team members are also enjoying and thriving in the entire process. So a lot of attention to talent and how people really bring things alive. Then we have Oslando Desouza, or Oz as he is known to all of us. He's the VP and Head of Insights at Hindustan Unilever Limited. Oz thrives on driving transformation across consumer, channel, and shopper insights, digital measurement, and AI-based tools. His experience in insights and growth spans across multiple geographies and categories, and with a variety of different kind of business contexts across different markets and global roles. In his current role, he has worked on strategic initiatives around unmissable superiority, power growth cells, innovation forecasting, AI-based approaches, and several others. And we will hear more from him. And then last but not the least, we have Soumya Mohanty. Soumya is the MD and Chief Client Solutions Officer of the Insights Division at Kantar for South Asia. And with over 2 decades of wide and deep experience in market research and consumer behavior, Soumya is a regular speaker at industry forums on consumer intelligence and brand building. And she's an expert in translating data into human stories that drive real business decisions. So great to have you all, Biju, Nitesh, Oz, and Soumya, and we will now sort of, turn over into our discussion. Of course, when we talk about mapping the future of insights and research, and analytics in this era of rapid transformation, there are several things that come to one's mind. From the consumer complexity that we are all living through with so much of complexity around different dimensions, the importance of human insight and human understanding still continues to be very important. But we also have a lot of data explosion and fragmentation, data from data in various shapes, sizes, forms, sources, and so on. The rise of AI and automation in the world of algorithms and ML models and so on. The importance of speed becoming more and more important. Things getting on to be more about decision centricity rather than just knowledge or understanding, and various other dimensions around more predictive approaches, transferring or thinking about signals versus noise, and many other different dimensions. So let me sort of first turn around to Nitesh to just outline for us why is all this happening? What are the key forces shaping the industry? Why is this happening? What's behind it? So that if you had to think about what actions to take or what to think about or how to gear ourselves better in this era of rapid change and be more prepared and take on the future with little more understanding. If you could outline for us, Nitesh, on what are the 2-3 forces fundamentally reshaping insights, research, and analytics today. You're on mute, Nitesh.
Unmute, yes. You can't have a call without that. So thanks, Chandan and Nitin and team for having me here, first of all. So, the quarter one results of the companies have just been out, last week and this week. So one of the biggest thing in industry today is the demand, or you can say the pressure on performance quarter on quarter. Yeah. So those all companies go through the pressure of making sure that you are performing top line, bottom line, quarter on quarter. And therefore, as insights and analytics community, it's very important that we help our organization to find those pockets of growth day in and day out. Yeah. And how do you find these pockets of growth to help them win and win competitively? Yeah. And that is something which is, I would say, is the most critical thing that we have to do today. The second big shift is if you really look at the shelf, the virtual shelf or the real shelf in 80s to 2000 to today, the difference both in terms of quality of pack, quality of product, quality of messages between a local brand, a retailer brand, or a global brand is hardly there. Yeah, you have to really differentiate in a highly cluttered market today. Yeah, so therefore, in today's world, especially for global brands, how do you get that balance between global scale and local relevance? Because the local competitors and regional competitors are as good or even better at times, and even charging premium at times versus what you are. So how do you get that balance right? By understanding the local consumers, retailers, and patients in our case, or HCPs, but at the same time making sure that you have the scale of being a global brand, and you can do it much faster, better, and at a much speed. The third is the word that you mentioned, Chandan, is about and. Yeah. So there is nothing in today's world about speed or quality. It is about speed and quality. So you have to deliver things at speed, but at the same time without compromising on quality. So if these are the three big shifts which are happening, the pressure on performance to find growth pockets. The second, you have to deliver and speed and quality at the same time. Third, the rise of local players, the regional players, the entry barriers in most of the categories that we play in have come down. So therefore, how do you maintain that global scale at the same time local relevance?
Thank you, Nitesh. The pressure on performance, yes, quarter on quarter is definitely there all around us. Turning over to you, Biju, from your perspective, looking at consumer behavior and from an analytics kind of a lens, what are the key sort of, forces fundamentally reshaping thinking today?
Yeah, from analytics, of course, I look at the importance of data. And I think there are two interesting data points I take from brain sciences, which actually is going to really change the way we have looked at consumer behavior. And I think the first of them is that we have about 11 million bits of processing. That's our brain's processing capacity. But what the latest studies are showing is that, only 77 of them, and I'm repeating the word 77 of them, actually function at a conscious level, which means 99.99% of the brain processes occur beneath the surface of conscious awareness. Now, I often say that this is actually one of the most hidden biological truths about human behavior. And the second is about the mediums. Smartphone is the medium. All of us know about it. But what is the context duration? Which is how much time is that screen in front of you, and cognitively are you interacting with it? In television, that was 5 to 21 minutes. But what we found from our studies is that the context duration on smartphone is only 5 to 10 seconds. For that matter, we found that 75% of the interactions on a smartphone are happening in less than 1 second. Now, these are things that clearly tells you that cut pasting the past, like using a 30-second long commercial when the overall decisions are all happening in seconds and milliseconds, I think is one of the most ridiculous things you can possibly do. So this, to me, this is, Chandan, one of the most significant things, which is that most of our human decisions happen at a non-conscious level, and those decisions are all happening in milliseconds. I think just fundamentally changes the way we have looked at human behavior so far.
Okay, thank you, Biju. On that note about how the human brain processes things and what's getting in front of the human brain, I think just a lot of overload out there, and how the brain is processing is a very important dimension of what we should keep in mind. Turning over to you, Soumya. Now, you have seen, the expectations of research users shifting, and the delivery mechanism to also delight research users and teams and businesses and bring value in terms of insight is probably also undergoing some change. Now, at the same time, there could be also things which could be currently broken in the insights ecosystem. How do you see, what's behind all these changes that we see around us?
Thanks, Chandan. Actually, Nitesh alluded to it. What is changing? I would call it financialization of marketing. So this quarter-on-quarter need for delivering performance is fundamentally because we are answerable to the share market, which is something that is way more today than it was in the past. So how does that play out? I think insights is shifting a lot more from discovery to defending decisions, to more validation, to more certainty. So the probabilistic element that used to be there in insights, no one has the patience for it anymore. I think that's a fundamental shift that has happened. Is it good or is it bad? Let's not get into it, but it is a fundamental shift. Digital metrics also give us the feeling of deterministic, give us a feeling of certainty. May or may not be certain, but it makes us feel that we know what we are doing. So I think that's one big shift from the user side. I think when you say broken, we are celebrating in market research today. So I don't think there is anything broken, and I'm willing to be challenged on that in the insights ecosystem. I think what is genuinely needs to be challenged is this belief that only behavior is enough to know what's going to happen in future. And what should be challenged is a structured understanding of context, trade-offs, choices, you versus competition. All those things are not so relevant now that we have information at our fingertip in dashboards. So I would push that back to say, I don't think we are broken. I think there is things that have changed and maybe we need to change, but I wouldn't say there's anything broken in the insights ecosystem.
Okay, thank you, Soumya. So yes, I mean, the insights ecosystem, like you said, has got many other parts, many other data and many other points which are coming in. So probably they all need to be woven together. And that's what you're also talking about. And in terms of course, the pressure on performance, which is always being tracked in different forums, including the stock markets. Turning over to you, Oz, are we sort of overestimating hype? Are we underestimating real change, or is it somewhere in the middle? Can you talk a little bit about, some of the examples that you see and some of the real life, cases that you come across in your day-to-day work?
Thanks, Chandan. Actually, quite paradoxically, I think that there's no question that there's a lot of change. I think everybody has spoken about it. But I want to say that what are we overestimating and underestimating? We are overestimating the fear of being overwhelmed by this change, and we are underestimating our own power to adapt to this change and still drive growth. I think that is the heart of the matter. Say, for example, I'll give you a few examples. Now there are many companies which have this, let's say, an interface which is a wrapper over an LLM or several LLMs, and they can do a report that a junior qualitative researcher of 2 or 3 years were doing before. And that could evoke fear. But I'm just thinking, what could happen if that same researcher had the power of these tools and could elevate their impact? And instead of in the time they had making that report, could give deeper insights that could answer the questions Nitesh raised. Where are those pockets of growth? How do we elevate our brands? How do we do things with speed and quality? So I believe that, this change is giving us opportunities. The machines will help us process, but as humans, we always have to interpret and really raise the game, and that's the quality which comes in. I'll give you another example. This comes to Soumya's point, that we have this feeling of Data is giving us a feeling of confidence. We've generated hundreds of new KPIs. There is hook rate and hold rate and view through rate and all kinds of data. But the reality is that, this data management can be done with a lot of systems today, but the humans will actually create meaning out of it. So since, Nitesh is here and he's joining us from Paris, there is a very famous French saying, and he must be fluent in French by now, which is plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Okay, and in English, it roughly means the more things change, the more they remain the same. And our tools will change dramatically to match the ecosystem. Biju spoke about nanoseconds and neuroscience. Of course, these tools will change, but what must not change is our curiosity, our empathy, our understanding of culture, our intuition, and the fundamentals. I disagree with Soumya that our tools will not change. I think they have to change, many of them. But I do agree with her that the fundamentals of good research must never change. And that is something only inside professionals can do. And we must elevate what we can do to match the change that we are in.
Okay, great. So fundamentals are fundamentals. They are timeless in a way, and they continue over a period of time. And we should also take the opportunity to kind of, embrace change and see what we can do with the change and how we could drive things forward with it and take advantage of all these new things that are coming in and are there at our disposal. So great. So let's now segue into, what is this future about? Since we have understood a little bit about, what's bringing about the change and why they change. So what's the future about? And let me turn over to you, Soumya. What are the biggest structural shifts that you see from, we do hear about insights to foresights. We do hear about surveys to signals, from reports to decision intelligence, or what? I mean, there could be many others. How do you kind of see? And if you were to look at, a couple of horizons, maybe 1-2 years or 3 to 5 years, 5 years plus, and so on, how would you see the future like, and what could be coming our way?
Yeah, and before that, Oz, I completely agree. Tools for me are the wrapper, and fundamentals are the building blocks. So yeah, the wrapper could keep changing, and once you know the building blocks, you can make as many wrappers as you want. But yeah, Chandan, coming back to this question, I think in 1 to 2 years, AI is here, and AI can be used to elevate what we do. AI can be used to reduce friction. Automation fundamentally reduces friction. AI can make you faster. AI can also help you actually sharpen judgment at the junior level, something that we are probably not yet have fully experienced. I think that is something that's going to happen. So in 1 to 2 years, I see AI taking over a lot of the manual repetitive work, and I do see the value shifting to more judgment, interpretation, framing, challenging. This phase is not the best phase, I would say, for the ones who are starting out right now. Because in a way, AI is taking over a lot of what they used to do, and it's not just in insights across professions. But in 3 to 5 years, I do think that will shift a bit. I do think 3 to 5 years, we are going to, insights is going to deal a lot more with probabilities or scenarios, because AI will provide a lot of the data and the information, and you will be able to synthesize much faster. So the role of the insights person is going to be to say what are the possibilities that could happen. To me, that's very exciting, by the way. And I think in 5 years, Chandan, this is a hope. I hope in 5 years we become like the operating system of growth for brands. And it's just embedded into everything brands do. And it gives a neutral, objective view, which they don't get through their own first-party data. But a more synthesized view. So we are not owners of any single data set, but we are orchestrators of the multiple data sets that are available. I think it's an incredibly exciting future. You just have to live through the next 2 to 3 years of transition and all the hype to be able to get to that place. And it's a hope. I'll say it's still a hope. And we should not end up self-flagellating ourselves to an extent that we get demotivated. I think that's I think Oz said it very nicely, but we as an industry do tend to be very critical of ourselves. I mean, even by the way, I feel advertising is in some form. We need to be much more confident and optimistic, confident of our skills and optimistic about what we can do with our skills. I think that part is really, really important.
Sure, absolutely. I think we should, and especially on IMRD, but even otherwise, we should celebrate on what research brings to the table, something that brings actually something which runs across different elements. And that's our unique sort of position to actually glue things together, like you very rightly mentioned. Turning over to you, Oz, what could, or rather even what should be the new normal in the next 2 to 3 years, which maybe feels a little bit futuristic today, and where do you see the greatest opportunities and the biggest risks in this transition? How do you see the shifts in underestimating or overestimating, or actually correctly understanding consumers across many Indias? That India known for a lot of diversity across the different parts, and how do you see what the future is all about?
Thanks, Chandan. Actually, because it's 2-3 years, I think the future is already here, as they say. It's just not well distributed. So, very, very often people ask you, oh, so how big is your team? And I think in the next 2-3 years, you're going to say, listen, I've got 35 humans and 65 agents. And, my team is 100 people or 100, let's say, entities. And this will become normal. And of course, you will have your trusted AI collaborators and I will have mine, and sort of they'll work in parallel. And I think this will be very normal. The second thing is that the speed of change makes me believe that there are some things which will have to be automated. There is no choice in the matter. Now, we do a lot of work, say, with Soumya on advertising. And when I started out, there would be one TV ad that we would run for a year and maybe 2 or 3 years, since we knew wear out was very low. Typically, a company now, a large company, does 400 to 500 content pieces every month, right, of different kinds. And it's almost impossible to actually do this the old way. And therefore, having an AI system based on human understanding, which is automatically linked into the Google ad servers or Meta ad servers, will become the norm. And what will researchers do? They will actually manage the system. They will spot patterns. They will make things better. And therefore, I think both this agent and automation will just become a normal thing. Everybody will sort of, live with it. But the third thing which will become normal, I think, which is a bit of a twist, and this is a bit of a prediction, and I agree with Soumya here. The researcher's role will become more important, because there'll be moments when the machine will say no and the researcher will say yes, because we understand humans are beautifully irrational things, right? And all the logic in the world will not help understand sometimes how things are going to change. And when they say we should zig, the human researcher will say, no, you should zag, because everybody else is zigging. And that'll be the role of insights. And I feel that'll be such a powerful role, and the credibility you will have to actually say that. You talked about many Indias. There are some cohorts we talk about as though they are one thing. In India, we say Gen Z, and there are about 377 million Gen Z, according to our official records. Out of those, 250 million live in rural. They are very different from their, highly metro urban counterparts. So as you say, winning in many Indias, you are going to need the researcher to look beyond what the machine says and understand how culture impacts people in different places. So as things get more automated, we will become the translators of complexity and contradiction. So the opportunity is massive. I think the risk is, there are two risks I want to highlight. One is we hold ourselves back and don't take advantage of the technology that is on offer. The other risk is we get overwhelmed by this technology, and we forget about the fundamentals of human behavior, which is why we are here. So, if I could give it in one line, I think the future is not humans versus machines, but humans who know when to trust the machines versus when to challenge the machines. That's the future.
Okay, so it's going to be human and machine, and each will have its own role to play. And one thing that comes to my mind, just building on what you said as well, is a bit of, if the machines are only going to understand patterns and throw up things, which is sort of well understood based on those patterns, then where is marketing all going to lie? Because a lot of marketing is about breaking things, about introducing new things, about habit change, about behavior change, about trying new things and whatever else. And of course, our Gen Zs will lead the way in many of this, and of course, and also the granularity of understanding the many Indias that you talked about could be enabled a lot more by technology and by AI. So Nitesh, from your standpoint, from a global standpoint, how do you sort of see the challenges and shifts in a brief way?
Yeah, thanks, Chandan. So I would underscore the point that you underscored from what Oz said, machine and humans. Yeah, so it's a world of and. Second, from a global perspective, I think it is very important that, and I keep discussing with a lot of my researcher colleagues, that if you talk about an ad which is made by AI, is tested by AI, and then aired through AI. So therefore, there is no human connection. Now, if you're doing it, to your point, Chandan, then all the ads will look very similar because they would not necessarily differ for a category. Yeah, of course, the context may change depending upon the category, brand, and country. But for a country, as you go narrow and narrow, it may look very similar. And then you're right, but the consumers are still making decision. I mean, okay, consumers may also be not making decision. AI may make a decision for consumers. Yeah, I mean, I say, when people say we don't use AI, I say you open your Amazon and the first thing says Amazon choice, and you tend to buy that one. That is AI. AI is telling you what to buy, and you then just get influenced by that and click on Amazon choice product. Yeah, forget about the brands. For me, I think the biggest change from a global perspective is insights people and analytics people, and probably I'll repeat myself if you have already heard me, has to stop thinking themselves as research and analytics people. They have to start thinking themselves as growth drivers. Yeah. And for driving this growth, you need to hunt for growth, and then you need to drive by making sure you influence business partners to take decisions based on your recommendation, your analysis, or anything that you have done. Now, I always say that even in this world of technology and AI, at least today, and probably for the next few years, the decisions are still getting done by human beings. Yeah. And if the decisions is getting done by human beings, by board members who are still human and not AI yet, they could be AI in probably 20 years down the line, nobody knows. But since decisions are still getting done by AI, you need to influence a human being to take a decision. Yeah. And that's where, what Oz was kind of talking about, the role of human to help people take that decision becomes very critical. Yeah. And I think that's where the change will come from, where you need AI to do the work. And I sometimes feel that AI does a better job in terms of doing unbiased analytical work, because when you are looking at 5 patterns, first you can only look at 5 patterns and not 5 million. AI can look at faster, smarter, and easier. Second, when you look at 5 patterns, you look at with your own bias, and you're already selecting based on your own bias and your own things, unconscious, again, to Biju's point, it's not conscious bias. And therefore you select the things which you think has worked, not worked, or will work. But when AI is doing it, of course, in the right way, if you have trained it, it will actually select with exactly what consumer is asking for or the market is demanding. So it will do in much unconscious, unbiased way, and therefore will give you much things which are much faster and something different than repeating yourself. Yeah. I'll tell you a live example. I was in a workshop in US the first day when we were talking about, kind of a competitive game. We were talking about competition, or we did, we took out, 200 things that competition can do to redefine us. And on the day 2, when we went to saying, okay, what Danone will now do, we again went back to what we can do, what we can't do. So we started putting boundaries based on our own bias and unconscious bias. I said, guys, if you'll keep doing it, you will do the same thing. So you have to come out of your, boundaries to say what can be done and what can't be done. Yeah. So that's the big thing that I would say. Second thing, just from a global perspective, look at I was talking about results quarter on quarter and year. Look at any global company. they're all hovering around the growth parameters of 3 to 5%. Yeah, I mean, if you're lucky, yeah? Otherwise you're not there in the 3 to 5 bracket. Look at any category. Categories are still growing at 6, 7, 8, 9%. Some of the categories that Danone plays is actually growing in high double digit. The challenge is, you see the growth as 3 and 5% of global companies, and you start clapping or they're doing well. But the real growth is driven by smaller players, local players who are not on the stock exchange. You're not on, their numbers are not getting published, and therefore nobody is talking about them. Yeah. So therefore, if the relevance today of the global companies have to be real to be able to fight the smaller players who are no more small from a country that they operate perspective, they may be small from a global perspective, then we need to solve a real consumer pain point, and differently and meaningfully to anyone else who is doing it. And no amount of only AI, no amount of only human can do it. You need human and AI to answer it.
Okay, so a good combination of human and AI. And like you said, with so much of data around us, it's AI who can understand and put it meaningfully together and analyze it, because the human brain cannot process so much in such a short period of time. But then after that is there, it's the human understanding, insight, and everything else around it, which will really, shine the light on all of that and help us move forward, like you said. Now, shifting gears a little bit into how to lead the future and how to kind of think about how do we really move into the future, and what do we do as leaders to steer all of this. And maybe I'll turn to you, Biju, to talk a little bit about how do we sort of look at the entire insights, analytics, research, and like Nitesh said, even look at it from a lens which is beyond, and like Oz and Soumya said, even go beyond into growth and allied areas. How do we really see this transformation happening? How do we really see evolving into an always on intelligence layer or decision making layer? How do we integrate all forms of relevant data, signals, methods, AI? You talked about neuro and brain and processing, and so on. How do we really put all this together, and what would be a sort of a practical way to look at all of this and to find our way into the future?
I think to begin with the straight plus one, what Nitesh said, which is growth. I think we all need to be working towards achieving growth for our clients. And how do we achieve it? I think that should be our focus. And I think while trying to do that, you're right. I think data, explosion of data, it's wonderful when companies are doing a great job of looking at that particular data. Data, I think, compared to my industry days when we used to do some 10 or 15 focus groups and believe we have understood the consumers, we have now today millions of data points that allows us. But still, if you look closely, what we're getting is a feel of what are the consumers doing. We're getting an extremely good feel of what people are really doing. But why did they do what they did? Now, do we really get that from analyzing that same data? Now, I'll talk about possibly one of the most famous of the work that my team did. So the biggest cause of death in Mumbai city is people cross the railway tracks and they get hit by a train. And 15 to 16 people die every day in Mumbai. And that's the single largest cause of unnatural death in Mumbai city. So railway gave us all the data, which are the places, what time it is happening, who are the people getting hit by it. We got an extremely good analysis of it. So we went to those locations and the accident spots, and standing there, one question came up. Hey, I can see a train coming in from both directions. Now, how can someone get hit by a train that they can see coming towards them? Now, that's a question just remained. It took us 6 months to arrive at it. But finally, we realized that our brain has a deficiency. Our brain evolutionarily has not seen large objects move fast. Elephants and giraffes never moved fast. And we only seen small things around, and we could judge that very well, rabbits or deers, and our forefathers threw a stone and had their breakfast that day. We started seeing large objects move fast in the last 100, 150 years. And so today, when you see a large object that's coming in, the incoming speed, we are underestimating that by 40%. Now, that is an insight that just cannot come from just looking at the existing data. And that's what I think, Ozzy, you said when you said the researchers have a big role to play. And I think when Soumya, you said, I think I like the term when you said judgment and interpretations, the whole context understanding. There's a large set of things that really come in, which only a human can do it. Because I don't think still the best of AI can do that, because those questions, because these comes from questions, provocative questions, and AI can give answers, and LLMs are brilliant in giving answers. But the most relevant and provocative questions that can actually make us go deeper into a problem and go to areas where we have never gone. And like the non-conscious processes of a person who's trespassing across the railway tracks, or who's standing at the shelf and deciding, should I pick up this or should I pick up this, in a matter of 2 seconds or 3 seconds, he decides on the brand. That going to the depth is something which only a human can really begin with asking the questions. Of course, today AI, by some of those answers, some of it can come in, but a lot of it has to come from the human. So that's one facet that we have to keep in mind. The second is AI is a reality. AI is going to make a change to everything we do. And so the human to human, let's call it, Danone or a Nestle and the consumer, I'm calling it a human to human relationship. My assumption is that very soon, a lot of them, the client side would be agents. So it'll be agent to human relationship is what's going to happen. And companies like us are already working on agent to agent relationship. Now we need to understand all these. Now, what are the triggers in each of them? Because what worked for human to human cannot really work for, say, a machine to human. For example, MIT's very interesting study on automotive cars, which said that an automotive car meets with an accident. If it is a human, he steps out and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake." We sort of forgive it. But when a automotive car hits you, what do? We're very angry with a mistake that an AI makes, because we judge a human by intention and we judge a machine by the results. Now, these are new biases that are emerging into our world of machines that are coming in. Now, my team just worked on something on agent to agent, and it was a worldwide competition where they had to play the mafia game, where agents are not the linear, rational people who do a mathematical calculation. He's a mafia who's hiding that he's a mafia, that agent. The others have to figure out now who's the mafia, which means agents are taking on human biases. Because in a competitive world where Nestle and Danone are sitting across, both agents, how much will they play on functionality? How much will they play on price? They will have to create scarcity. They will have to create, all the typical things which a human beings did. So agents are going to become more like human. So in this world where human to human changes to human to machine and machine to or agent to agent, there's some very interesting developments on what are insights, what are the real triggers, what is the new persuasion that we're going to create in this new environment. These are really, really interesting times, Chandan. I'm really, really happy that I'm still continuing to work at this point of time.
Absolutely. Lot of dynamic change around us, how humans and agents work together to create a future which is not 1 + 1 = 2, but 1 + 1 = 5, or even more. How do you really kind of join that whole thing going forward? Turning over to you, Nitesh, thinking about the future and how we can shape it, what's the role of leadership? What should leaders be driving and held accountable for, and also driving talent in the industry and so on? What's your lens on that?
Before I do that, Biju, as a qualitative researcher who started his career, I think those 10, 15 groups still add value, though of a different kind. So before my peers in call agencies were thinking, okay, what's happening to call industry? Because I do feel that meaningful differentiation may still come from those 10, 15 groups and not from patterns necessarily. Yeah. Okay. Now, coming to your point, Chandan, on the future from a leadership perspective, yeah, I think the change in mindset and culture is the most important thing. So let me give an example exactly on Biju is saying here. If machine is going to do through unconsciously come up with patterns and ideas, which when shown to the human being will seem different, and they'll say, oh no, I have been, I have 25 years of experience, I have 20 years of experience, and this is not the way world is happening, or this is not the way data is happening. So therefore, people have to accept that, what AI is doing is much more unconsciously than what you are doing it. Because the moment you look at data, you come up with your own biases. How do I cook food? How do I consume? How do I buy? And there was a time in Unilever, Oz may remember, when I did a simple research that the moment you join Unilever, you are 3% of the world population. So therefore, what you do is nothing determined by what the consumer on the street is doing. So go and understand the consumer and not by what you do. Yeah. Otherwise, we all know how to wash clothes, we all know how to cook food, we all know how to drink water, but the consumer is doing it very differently. And therefore, the skill that you need from a leadership perspective is how do you have those influencing skills to influence business partners to take decision. Yeah. And that's where I see the leadership changing, where you have to not just present data and information, present analysis and a great presentation, but that's where after the presentation your job starts. First, how do you tell a story in a such an impactful way, inspirational way, that people sit down and notice, or sit up and notice? And second is, after the presentation has happened, how do you influence the larger ecosystem to take actions based on that, rather than clapping at the presentation and then going and doing the same thing that they have been doing for years? So that influencing skills becomes very important. And for insights community to have that influencing skill, for the analytics community to have that influencing skill, first you need to be a great storyteller, and therefore you need to again have those qualitative kind of mindset and culture and skills, which is very important. Second, the seat at the table. Yeah. How many organizations today have at the global level where insights is part of the board, ULE in Unilever or Comics in Danone is presenting month on month, just like they look at financial numbers month on month, they're also looking at consumer and market shifts month on month, beyond just market share number, which I'm sure all of us or most of us track. And I think that is the important change in leadership. And that can only happen if you speak the business language. And I know I'm going back to the same thing again and again, because that's where I find. And to speak the business language, you have to speak the growth language, you have to speak the top line and bottom line language. Because if you're not speaking the top line and bottom line language, is how insights and analytics is leading to an increase in top line and bottom line, it will not cut through. You will not be able to tell your story. Yeah. And I think that's very important. Seat at the table, tell a great story to influence based on unconscious insights that you've uncovered through AI.
Great. So that sort of summarizes the leadership agenda of the future, to still have a lot of value for human storytelling, for bringing it all together, for really leveraging, of course, the different tools, but synthesizing it, adding to growth, and really showing the way for the business. Maybe we turn over to a few questions now. There are a few questions from the audience, and let me just quickly go over to the first question. Is for you, Soumya. The question is about, how does one get the young researchers to have exposure to this new world, which is fast changing? Anything from your perspective on how do you see it, to look at it, and what are the opportunities there?
Not an easy question. Actually, it should have been a very easy question. But yeah, basically, I mean, we just have to give them the exposure to this world, and it is a risk. I think one of the things we have probably not touched upon is the need for courage. I think one of the things that insights as a community can bring is courage. Courage to say, AI does not have courage or cowardice or anything. AI, I mean, it's an artifact. It's not conscious. Now, some people say it's conscious, but it's not truly conscious. We are conscious. So we can choose what we want to say. We can, as Nitesh says, influence. I think it's important for young people to be in that room when the seniors are influencing, when they are speaking from conviction and passion. That is the only way that we can, initiate them the way we were initiated. There is no other way. And I am really worried when organizations do not hire young people in times which are uncertain, because then what is going to happen 5 years from now? We'll just not have leaders. don't think we are thinking about it as much as we should. And sometimes, just sometimes, I'm a little worried about AI to AI conversations, etc. This is a reality, but somebody has to be the consumer of Danone and Unilever and Nestle, and somebody has to eat real human food. Somebody has to pay for it. So we need consumers. We need people with money in their hands to go and shop. So I do think we all need to be. If you were to ask me the three words for the future, I would say insights needs to be relevant, insights needs to be rigorous, and insight needs to be responsible. So should marketing be. And then young people, we just have to give them that, that space where they can see all this happening. And yeah, that's the only thing we can do, unless somebody else has a better idea on what we can do for them.
Sure, Soumya. So young people, we should all dive in, we should speak up, and we should embrace the opportunity that's there around us. We do have a few other questions. A question for you, Nitesh, a very quick one. How are you using AI to find the next Huel? Huel is this, new energy drink and sort of the beverage with a lot of different things. Is this an area which is notoriously difficult for AI to get right? Is it human? Is it AI? How do you look at these kind of new innovative opportunities and spaces in the market?
Yeah. So I think the answer is again very simple: human and AI, not human or AI, or AI or human. Yeah. So first of all, Huel is now part of Danone. If you're referring to the same Huel, which is a product in UK. Okay, subject still to some papers being signed. That's what we are officially supposed to say. So I'm assuming legally I'm correct here. But the key thing is looking exactly at two things. We have this something called spot size and scale, where we use AI to spot things which are happening all the time. Yeah. Sometimes, the challenge is one of the biggest thing that I keep saying, and you will actually is a small, meal solutions today is not huge business. It's still a small business, but we are betting on it as what would be the future big, kind of place where people won't have time to eat a full meal. And therefore they would want just a bottle of nutrition filled product to be able to kind of meet all their nutritional needs, and therefore also their hunger for that moment. Yeah. One of the key thing is that one marketers always often used to ask me, tell me the big trend, yeah, and that we can work on. I said, if I tell you the big trend, then you've already lost it because somebody else has made it big. Yeah. If you have to take a bet, you have to take bet on something which is emerging as from a consumer needs, from a market shift, from a cultural shift that you need to bet on, and you will bet on 10 things and one thing will become big or you will make it big. But if you think that I tell you what is big tomorrow, then either I would do a different job. I'm definitely not going to work for Danone. I'm going to be a soothsayer to say what will become big. Or it is somebody has already made it big. So therefore, the big question is, look at early signs. Yeah, use AI. AI helps you do it through a lot of data points that you not will have physically to spot that. Once you've spotted that, then size is based on similar categories, similar markets, or different markets where it could become big, or similar kind of a consumer that could, segments of consumers that could do it. And then the most important thing is that how do you convince your business to say that, okay, these are the emerging ideas, emerging trends based on the world. How do you make it big? Yeah.
Okay, so still very much human plus AI, but human taking a very big lead in all of this. One question for you, Biju. What core technology like foundation models does India need to invest to enable AI to get a better understanding? Anything around that? And there's a related question for you, Oz, as well. On the same spirit, what core technology does India need to invest in to enable AI to lead to better understanding of many Indias?
So you go, because I'm not a tech expert.
Okay, so maybe Oz?
Yeah, so no, I think one of the things is right now, a lot of the technology is coming from outside India. But Indians are extremely creative and jugadu, as you say, and they are sort of taking these LLMs and doing fantastic things with them. I see a lot of innovative new tools coming, usually at a fraction of the cost, which is also an important thing, but actually quite innovative in the way we are developing things. I think we need to focus in areas where, the typical areas, which is analysis of text data, of video analytics. These are things which a lot of companies are chasing. But in India, a lot of things happen beyond text and beyond video. There's a lot of things happening in smaller towns, in markets, in hearts, in villages, that is not captured by typical Meta and Google type data. And quite frankly, when you look at how, say, many political parties work at the grassroots level, or sports companies work at a grassroots level, or even newspapers in the old days used to actually know the news from the local levels. I think India can develop a lot of AI tools that fit our unique fabric, that fit our unique set of languages and 2000 or whatever sub-dialects, in which there's so much meaning hidden that no global tool can ever do. So I think the future for winning in many Indias is open for us to really use our technology to serve the Indian consumer the best.
Okay, great. There are a few other questions coming, but we will probably not have time for that. So we will find a way to answer those questions later. But thank you so much, Oz, Nitesh, Biju, Soumya, and of course the entire MRSI team which has been behind this entire program, and of course all the attendees. Thank you for spending your time with us and going through some of the elements of how we shape, how everyone actually shapes the future of insights and research and analytics in tomorrow's world. A few key sort of takeaways, and this by no means is going to be comprehensive given what the panelists have spoken for almost an hour, but very important, to still be very, very focused on the fundamentals. It's going to be human and AI, so it's not human or AI. There's a role for human, there is a role for AI, there is a role for agents, and the more they can leverage each other's advantages, each other's pluses, each other's things that they bring on the table, would be a better place to stay focused on growth. And that's very, very important. It's about a growth economy, especially in India, but also growth very, very important for companies, businesses, institutions, everybody around the world. That's where some of the performance related and other aspects are also coming. So to remain very much focused on growth, to remain also very focused on understanding the why and going deep, and that's where newer approaches around understanding behavior and under going to the subconscious, the unconscious, and trying to peel out everything in there is very, very important. The non-conscious and all the elements around. Still a lot of room for fundamental foundational work, the group discussions and everything else, and consumer connections and everything else still have a lot of value. That's where true, real contextual understanding lies. So not to sort of move that into completely technology-driven stuff, but to leverage technology in all the different ways. I think a lot of room for our young talent to also participate, to lead, to bring in the courage and the enthusiasm and energy which they have in abundance to be able to kind of lead the entire effort. And of course, we will find more opportunities for IMRD to celebrate even further the spirit of research, the spirit of analytics, insights, and everything to come together as a community. Thank you so much for listening in, and thank you to the panelists. Thank you to Nitin for sort of being with us all through, and to everyone who has been the secretariat, Anila, Mitali, and everyone who has been a part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Chandan, for a great summary. Have a lovely day, guys. Take care.
Bye. See you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.